Hi, my name's Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Blue Sky fame. And welcome to Avatar: The Last Podcasters. I don't know. I just drew a blank there, like 2 seconds, and I have no idea why. I was like, "Well, what are we talking about?" Welcome to Avatar: The Last Podcasters. This week, I would like Chris to take the opportunity to explain to me why I should like the beach more. And I did rewatch it, and I'm looking forward
I was like,
to.
well, Sean, the water is great. Sit on the sand. You know, I love going. I've only been to the beach twice in my whole life, which is my last vacation. And I just love sitting on the beach and just as the tides just come in and out, just love sitting there.
You would, you damn airbender. I don't care for the literal beach. I just, I sit there thinking, like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it makes me
I just love sitting
anxious.
there.
I
I just
can't
love
do.
sitting there. Like I would also just like because because I can actually float in water in like the Caribbean stuff.
It's nice to be
Uh,
able to float. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I could. I thought, I've never floated before. Went to the Caribbean, learned how to float. I thought, oh, cool, I know how to float now. Unless I'm in the water in the states or whatever, I'm gonna try and float. Nope,
That's.
sinking. It's
It turns out it's not
but
a taught skill. You just, you just can't some places. You can't. Other.
but
I
like I would just float and just
I
just
like
go.
playing in the water. I've probably been to 4 beaches, 3 or 4, something in there, and I'll actually maybe 4 or 5. A couple of them were too choppy, and so not so choppy that you couldn't get in, but choppy enough that wasn't a ton of fun. And a
Yeah,
couple of them smelled gross, but there was one. It was like probably the second beach I ever been to that was clear. It wasn't smelly. It wasn't choppy. I loved playing in the water with like the light lapping of the waves, and it was fun. It was kind of in a cove. I did like that. I didn't like sitting on the beach. But for those who haven't like caught on at this point, we're going to talk about the episode, "The Beach" of Avatar. I don't remember. It's season 3, but what episode is it? Do you remember off the top of your head? I just
season 3 because it's episode. There's the headband. No, I'm sorry. The What's the first episode? Oh, the awakening, the
mhm.
reawakening, the headband, um, um, the painted lady, and then the beach. I think it's episode 4
Okay.
of season 3.
Um,
Let me prove that.
fantastic. But
Let's get that
before
correct.
but before we do that, Chris, how have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been great. I've been playing a lot of Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom because I bought a Switch 2 and I got the little extra one, and it was very daunting at first because my original account like 20 something hearts,
Hmm?
meters all filled up and stuff, and so to start over from scratch felt like a lot, but I'm kind of halfway through. And at first, I was just like, I just want to beat it real quick just to get that experience again. And now I'm back around just exploring, even though I've already explored pretty much probably 95% of everything. Because I've forgotten. It's been like 2 years or so um, since I played it, and so it's nice to go back. It's definitely my favorite Zelda game of all time. Yeah.
I think it's super hard in the future when we look back and we're talking about these games. I think it's going to be like the basketball phenomenon of having 2 great players on one team that's going to divide votes of Link to the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
I think it's
Are
going
there
to
people
divide
who
people, but in my mind, it's not that they deserve to be together, but I just mentally always going to pair them together. It's like same engine, same everything, just 2 different games. Like I'm always going to put them together and say that experience, that 2 games of experience
dang it?
that spans
It's
3
episode
consoles,
5.
so close,
Mhm.
is the best Zelda experience, and that's probably the cheap cop out way that I'll word it because they're fantastic.
I really hope, I've been thinking about what the next Zelda game is going to be like. People are like, "Oh man, they could, the Switch 2 is way more powerful than the Switch. They could up the graphics. They could do all this stuff." And I'm kind of just like,
Why?
I just want the same game, but I want. It's not that I don't want that game. I do want that game at some point, but I want them to make a trilogy, right? Like if it goes Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and whatever, and then and they actually bring in the Triforce into this one because they haven't even discuss the
Not
Triforce
at
at
all.
all. It's not even a thing. So like the third one could be like about like probably the new Ganon of because there was Ganondorf thousands of years ago when Zelda went back in time,
Hmm?
right? And in Raru they imprisoned Ganondorf. Ganondorf ended up coming back to being revived in present time. Link defeats him, but there's probably a Ganondorf somewhere around in present time. So like, what if that Ganondorf is trying to go after the Triforce? Like, I would love if that third one is like about the Triforce and everything with it, and then you have this really nice trilogy of Zelda games. I feel like there hasn't been a
Never been a
trilogy of
trilogy.
Zelda games.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Also, I would like it to be same engine. Throw it in the same. You can make it look nicer or bigger, or whatever. But same engine. I love that engine. I think everything looks amazing on the Switch One. Not perfect, but great. And then I
yeah.
would like it to be so. We had Breath of the Wild, kind of contained cool exploration, but contained to like an island. And then Tears of the Kingdom, we expand it up and down. Let's make this one a bit more seafaring somehow. Maybe
Okay.
being on the boat is somehow part of the action Wind Waker style, or
Yeah.
just more of a maybe more of like an island to island feel with the different environments and biomes and things being a result of like different locations, different islands. So something like that I think would be really cool and a nice way to expand a little further.
Yeah.
I love the underground part for like fun exploration, but I don't know that it adds like a ton to the narrative. Like I know it's a
I
necessary part of the narrative. It's not an engaging part of the narrative. I think I would trade that off for more mainland seafaring, I think.
I don't think you can do the depths again.
I don't
It'll
either,
feel
yeah.
almost a little too repetitive. Like part of that coolness was like, okay, what the heck is this hole in the ground? I'm gonna go down it. Should I go down it? Okay, I'm gonna go down it.
Mm,
And then you're down there and you're like, what the heck is this? Like,
that
what's
was a
going
lot of
on?
fun.
It's dark. It's what are those glowy orange things over there? And it's like that game is so much just about just as you as a player, just exploring, just playing in a
Mhm.
sandbox and just like go and just
Yeah.
experience it. That I don't think they will even try to replicate the depths again.
Yeah, that was my favorite place to mess around. It was really sandboxy. I mean, that's the idea.
Mm.
Maybe even don't the sky part just wasn't that substantial. Like it was cool, but it wasn't
Yeah,
super substantial.
I agree.
You could probably ditch that part, but maybe you get somehow one if your theme is like islands. Maybe one of your islands floats. Maybe one of your islands is like is a singular subterranean locale or something like that. Like nice nods. But yeah, I hadn't thought narratively, but it would be really cool to see Triforce again. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And that's been
What are
Zelda.
you up to, Sean?
What am I up to? I have baby. No, what have I been doing this week? Man, he's such a good baby. He's 4 months old. That is what I've been up to, Chris. He's 4 months old tomorrow or today if you're watching this like right away. And he's at the perfect stage because he like interacts a little. He communicates, makes eye contact, plays with things with his hands a little bit, but he still can't move and he still isn't growing teeth. So he's still like happy. He's making noises, giggling a little bit. So yeah, I've been hanging out with my baby, and then I've been we watched the rest of Community, Heather and I, and then I've been building with Heather this Lego, which looks really huge, but it's intentionally like it's the opposite. It's actually pretty small. It's I don't know,
Say, don't
maybe
you already have Hogwarts
we have a huge
Lego?
Hogwarts that we got from AliExpress, so it's not Lego brand, but very similar. This one is smaller. This is like a foot by I don't know 16 inches or something, but it's like supposed to look full and detailed, and it hurts my fingers to get the little pieces. So no, been playing with Lego. And then my family, it's time for wheat harvest. If you live in the Midwest, you've probably seen wheat harvest at some point. So tomorrow we're going to take Camden to my parents' house and put him on a combine and take the prerequisite baby pictures that every young Kansas baby has to take at some point.
He gonna have on a plaid shirt.
I don't have one, but that's a good idea. I'll dig one up. Maybe little pearl snaps. You know what I mean? Cut the sleeves off. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
It'll fit right in. The hats with the mesh on the back. I actually think I have one of those for a baby. The people call them trucker hats. I think that's unfair because I feel like those were probably just like outdoor hot summer hats long before they were trucker hats. But whatever, whatever. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. It's been great. And then I've been up to watching the beach. Which Chris, I'm ready for you. You don't have to like persuade me. I really went into it. I promise, with my best like set of fresh eyes. Uh, Tried to really ditch all of my preconceived notions, and I just want to just relook at it. If you'll walk us through a summary, perhaps.
Um. Sure, I can walk through. I'll walk through because we maybe walk through the episode.
Yeah, you don't
I'll
have to
walk
go
through some
crazy.
points.
Yeah, hit some highlights, and then we'll.
I'm a cheat a little bit with this first um convincing piece of evidence
Sure,
for you
absolutely.
to like this episode. I think it's a little bit cheating because I know the part of the beach you don't like, but I'm still gonna make you like the whole beach. The B
That's
plot,
I can live with that too, right? I understand there's going to be bits and pieces that still suck.
the B plot is Team Avatar running from Combustion Man,
That's a great B
and that
plot.
oh yeah, that's a crazy B plot. It's like we've introduced an assassin who is, I sometimes try, I try to build. If you're trying to build a villain in your head of like, all right, build someone who is like super powerful. And honestly, no shade against Fire Lord Ozai. Combustion Man is probably. I'm not saying he's a stronger firebender than than Ozai, but like no power boost. He is threatening all of Team Avatar by himself.
He is way
Like,
cooler. He's way more interesting.
yeah,
An active villain in pursuit instead of one trying to like lure Aang in. That's more fun to me. Chris, up
yeah,
until
like
that's what this is gonna sound too preachy, but it's a good lesson. That's what like hatred does. Because I didn't remember until I rewatched this episode. Really
exactly
think
right.
about that because I get so caught up in this other garbage. But that's what hate does: is it clouds your vision to the big picture.
That's how I am with Bato the Water Tribe. I'm always like, oh yeah, but June is in that episode, and I like June. But the thing is, though, Combustion Man is to me way cooler than June. No offense against June,
June's
but
great. Uh,
yeah,
I think the other thing with Bato and June is that's like pervy Iroh episode, which just isn't a great
sure.
look to me personally.
Yeah. I do want to call out the sound design on Combustion Man, which is freaking nuts. Like the combustion bending, it's like a, it's like this. Is how I imagine it. It's like there's like
The
multiple
little
pops.
pops and
Yeah,
they build.
yeah. Like they could have easily just done a, but instead it's as if the combustion is like
It's
erratic almost, but like it's
building.
building
It's
up to bigger
gathering
combustion.
oxygen before it actually, I don't know, takes
Yeah,
off. Chris, his whole design, everything about him, audio wise, audibly and visually, is cool. I love.
yeah,
He looks like a just a bad guy from like a late '80s, early '90s TV show, just like an over the top generic bad guy, but that they made awesome. He's
yeah.
great.
And like that's a big fight between him and Aang. Like Aang having to learn on the fly and like take on a person who has no idea what their bending is. That alone would sell you the episode.
I think that's a good approach. I will award this B plot 33% weight of my
Yeah,
episode
okay.
consideration. I think that's fair.
All right, this other plot point. I'll just talk about Azula in totality here.
Okay. Okay.
Couple things about Azula. I think, and you'll probably disagree with this. I think this is like a best opportunity for comedy from Azula. Like, and it's not like laugh out loud comedy. It's more of that like that deadpan kind of
Tongue in
comedy.
cheek, maybe.
Yeah, like her like stomping on the sandcastle of little kids, or her like maniacal, like when she defeats that that volleyball game or whatever, and like she, you know, a lot of this episode is kind of her. A lot of comedy is her building up being Azula, and then the moment just stops.
Hmm.
It's like okay, that
I-
yeah,
I'm
and then
50-50 there.
the whole Chan thing of like Chan, that's a sharp outfit and so sharp that it will punch her something, leaving all to drown at sea.
Mhm.
And then that guy's chest. Oh, I gotta go. Like that's funny stuff.
I'm 50-50 with you on the Azula, the different look at Azula. Like I loved seeing her stomp on the sandcastle. I love the humor in watching Azula go kind of Michael Jordan ham on a volleyball game, like a must win at all costs. Uh, and the interactions, like, but Chris, I hate in every time, whether it's Harry Potter or Twilight or whatever. I hate stupid sports scenes in movies and TV
You
shows
hate
where
sports things
they don't
and
belong in places they
ah,
don't.
you hate that. You hate Quidditch.
Quidditch is the worst sport ever.
Okay, well wait. There's I would if you're talking about the rules of it and stuff and like how it's probably unbalanced, sure. But like the concept of Quidditch, you hate Quidditch?
I don't hate the concept of a sport being played on brooms. Quidditch is garbage. I hate it so much. And the scenes in the movies don't look great most of the time. And what sport do you play? You practice like how many times a week they practice to play 3 games a year, Chris? Do you understand what I'm saying? Each team
Okay,
plays
well,
3 games all year. What kind of sport is that?
I like I said, I don't know the ins, and I don't know if part of your issue with is the ins and outs of the rules and the the league uh
It feels up
processes.
here like it should be way cooler. A basketball on brooms. Like if you just take that concept, right? Like, okay, that
Okay.
sounds great. Okay, but just do that then instead of all of this other garbage. And then in the movies,
Quidditch probably dates back even before basketball. Who knows? Like, is there
but
some history on Quidditch? I'm kind of
but
curious now.
there probably is. But does it date back before like the Central American native tribes played the game where they had to use their hip to hit the ball through the hoop, Chris? No,
Probably not.
if you just said basketball on brooms, I'd be like, that's awesome. Let's do it.
I mean, that's a crazy sport. Like, I
Yeah.
remember seeing that in El Dorado, and I'm like, what the?
I
You
know.
have
How do
to
they do
hit
that?
it, and like in this big of a thing, and it's like
And they're
that
like
can't be
kicking
real.
it and stuff. They're not throwing it as wild. Good movie, by
Yeah.
the way, El Dorado. But no, I don't think Quidditch. And I think also as a young kid, it looks more interesting up here. And then when they try to put it in the movies, it just doesn't look good. But and then also one time somebody tried to sell me on the Twilight movie because they're like, "Oh, but there's a cool baseball scene. You like baseball, right?" And I
No,
was like,
that
"Yeah."
baseball scene sucks. No, that baseball scene
It's
sucks.
the most awkward thing. My face was on fire. I was so embarrassed watching that horrible baseball scene. Like, it's like it was the equivalent of like watching a movie where there's a sex scene and you're like in the room with your parents and you didn't know it's gonna be there. That's how I felt watching that baseball scene by people who enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It
Don't
was,
even bring that up.
it was killing. Anyway, so the volleyball scene, I like the general concept. That was a big loop. I like the general concept of Azula just like dominating a volleyball game because she's Azula. I always get mad at like random sports scenes in places they shouldn't be.
And I
Um,
like how Azula immediately sized her up and said, "Aim like for her left." She seems to be having a hitch in that foot, probably from a previous injury she had when she was younger.
So like
like
that
just
that to
that.
me is the funny part. That's the funny part of this, of like Azula taking Azula, but to a game. And then
Yeah, yeah.
the other part that I think that I've come around on that previously I would have said is bad. Here's a place where I've grown to accept more.
Okay,
Normally, I would hate Azula's dialogue in all of these situations. Like, that's so hammy. But then I think I've come more to a place like, no, that's why it's funny. That's who Azula is. Her dialogue is always hammy from the moment she gets off the ship, and I hate that piece of dialogue too. Like,
true.
that's just how she
True. I
is.
think yeah, we did have a. Did
That's
we? uh, Did we disagree on that when we
we did.
reviewed it? Probably. Okay.
And
Yeah,
there's a
but
lot of
it's
things
coming
that
back.
Azula says and does that are just like that I don't like. It's like, Shawn, that's just because you don't like her. But that's how she is. It's consistent. It's just in a funnier atmosphere. And so I
Yeah.
can at least grow to appreciate the humorous intent by, yeah, look at how stupid she sounds in by regular people. Like they're making fun of themselves in a little, or making fun of her in a bit of a way. That part I change my mind or come around on a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Oh yeah. More on Azula. The I. This is an hyperbolic statement. Let's relate to Azula. This episode could potentially be one of the most important episodes in Avatar for what it could have somewhat set up. And I say that because this episode really it really highlights Azula as a character, right? Like when Lo and Lee talk about coming to um I forgot the name of the stupid island. Um
Ember, no, what?
Ember. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ember.
Ember.
I started doubting myself. I was like, no, Shawn, that's Ember Island players, you idiot. No, Ember Island, yeah.
When Lo and Lee talk about coming to Ember Island, they're like, "Oh yeah, the island will change you. Like it will smooth out those rough edges." And then like if you follow Azula's journey through this episode, she does not change at all. Like she has opportunities to change, but she doesn't, which I think is honestly great writing because she's Azula and she is stubborn and she is set in her ways. She's not at a place to change or to open up about anything. Like, and even though and they explore all of her insecurities in this episode, and yet she, by the end of it, she's like, "No, I'm perfect." Like they show like when it comes to Ty Lee getting attention of boys, like Azula is insecure about that. So much to the point that like she sees Ty Lee getting that attention on the beach, and she redirects everyone's attention to go and playing volleyball, something that she will dominate, and something that she is actually great at, instead of being on the beach and trying to flirt with boys.
This is a little like approaching the climax of our discussion earlier, probably than you would anticipate. Because this is my biggest positive takeaway
Oh, okay.
from
Wow.
this rewatch. This is my biggest
I was
after
when you
this.
said biggest, like I was on, not
Uh,
literally on the edge of my seat, but I was like, what's going to be the next word?
no, this is
Okay,
my
go keep going.
biggest positive is that I don't always. We've talked before. Not every villain needs a redemption arc, and I
Yeah.
think that this episode does all the other things still intact that I say of like, yeah, I don't like the dialogue and it's heavy handed. And sometimes I even feel like this is an episode that feels like timeline wise is a little out of place. Narratively, it wouldn't fit anywhere else, but timeline wise, it's like a weird type of episode to have at this stage. But there's something about being able to humanize these characters. We're not making them empathetic necessarily, but we are human. This is a teenage girl of a rich, wealthy family on a beach full of entitled people, and there's something that just that you see it in a different light, but it just fits. It feels right. You've made this super powerful villain, this insanely powerful human, feel more human, even without, as if in the way that you've just described, does not deserve and has done nothing to earn a redemption arc. But you've made her feel more like a regular person in a way that I think is good. I think that makes the story more impactful. That villains, like, hey, if you hurt a villain, you're hurting a person. This is the person. In this case, it's a horrible person, but that still is a person. And is this is good. This is a good thing to do, not just for her, primarily for her, not just for her though, for everybody. Um, and again, I think you just described it beautifully, and I hadn't come to that point yet. But just at the end of this episode, at no point do I leave thinking like, "Yeah, look at her deserving a redemption arc." It's like, no, they did make her seem more human, but like the bad human that she is.
Yeah, like everyone is like opening up. She's like, "Bravo, everybody!"
Yeah.
and like, and Zuko even calls it out. She's like, "Sorry, we can't be like you. You're perfect." She's like, "You're right." I am, of course. And she's like,
Mhm.
"But even my own mother thought I was a monster," and she was right, of course. And it's just like she did not change. And like by the end of it, she's just like, "All right, let me go destroy something."
Yeah.
Like, I had no character arc here. You all did. Let me take that. You guys are in some place where you're cool with going to go destroy someone's home.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way of coming to terms of good and bad, sure, but it's still a person. Here it is. Here is that person, but this is still a teenage girl that's doing teenage girl things right here. And I think that's important to come to terms with as a character or as a watcher of a character, pardon me. So, and I think that's my
Yeah.
biggest positive. Chris, I'll be a little surprised if you can pull me on too much other than the few things. You've really done a nice job of
Okay.
hitting the positives early.
My last big point, good things coming through. I have three bigger points,
Okay.
and this one is probably the most annoying part. Is the Zuko stuff? Like Zuko with May, grumpy, break up, back together type of stuff, and I'll admit that is probably the most annoying aspect of it,
I think
and
so.
it kind of always has been for me.
I think so.
Just that, not even the Zuko, not even the like. If I separate Zuko out of that, like the time that he's alone, like that stuff to me is great. But like the Zuko and May stuff to me is like iffy, or it's just not like I've been wondering this. My biggest pet peeve with that is like, why is Zuko so insecure? Granted, this whole episode's about insecurities, but why is he so insecure about May like leaving him or something? Like I've always questioned that. Like this seems like you're building in the insecurity because it's the insecurity episode
Mm.
where everyone shares insecurities, and so like it's not even a plot hole or anything like that. It's just like this doesn't make as much sense to me of why Zuko's like so angry and why he's like angry at May and stuff. But I've come to the conclusion of like Zuko's at a point right now where he's unable to be positive or to be happy or to be kind because he doesn't know who he is. Like he is having that identity crisis. And that reflects in him and his relationship with May and stuff. It's like, why would he probably internally, subconsciously is thinking like, I don't even love myself. Why would anyone love me? Which that builds up resentment, that builds up walls and stuff. So this final viewing, this most latest viewing of it, sort of helped me relook at that relationship between that dynamic between him and May. There's more stuff. There's more stuff on Zuko that I'll speak about, but I just want to speak about the May Zuko and how I looked at it through a little bit of different lens this time. And that argument may or may not sway you from that, which I would completely understand if you still do not like that Zuko and May dynamic there.
So yeah, Zuko and May part is awful. I didn't think as much about Zuko on his own. We might come back to that in a sec because I didn't
Yeah,
really
yes,
because he's so absorbed in the May bit. I will say, Chris, that everything you just said can be completely true, but it still feels like like in a drug like a Cialis commercial where everybody's and it's like a dramatized recreation, not real people or whatever. That's what it feels like. It's like I understand that what you're saying is a real thing and a real reason that feels valid, but it
yeah,
still feels like they took that and they're like, well, we need to crank that up like 30% because he needs to have big feelings in this episode to
yeah,
share.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it still feels like we gotta just dial this up to an 11. Uh, and that's it's the thing that I understand, but I think it'd been fine without. I think you could have had a less douchey Zuko May thing that still evolved less douchely into the discussions and the revelations that they had. So it doesn't do a lot for me other than understanding the idea of like, yeah, what he's feeling right now is valid. He's more confused than he has ever been. Um, but
Yeah.
it just feels a little turned to he wouldn't I feel like he wouldn't do. I feel like Zuko wouldn't go outward with all those feelings. I think he'd go farther inward with those feelings in that moment. And then they'd spend all episode
Yeah.
trying to pry it out of him, and then at the end
Okay.
somehow they hit a right button. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely 100% valid, and that like it is. This might be the angriest you see
Yeah.
Zuko post season one. Like,
Hmm?
no, I mean, no, not the angry. Well,
No, I,
the most ludicrously angry. Like, why?
like childish anger instead of sort of
Yeah,
righteous indignation.
yeah, like him yelling at a thunderstorm. That was him, probably the
Yeah,
angriest, like, which
but
I
that's
get.
cool.
I
Like
love.
he's yelling
Yeah,
at a thunderstorm. That's
yeah,
Chris. If you didn't live in
yeah.
town,
They
you can't tell me you wouldn't go outside just one time and just
you never help. Just
yes.
just that scene of like it's the imagery of it is great. Like in the the foolishness, the almost absurd audacity to yell at the
Mhm.
universe or whatever to strike you
Yeah.
down is like, yeah,
See,
it's great writing.
I don't love that scene either, but that scene feels like Zuko in that moment when it happens. That feels like something that that kid would do in that moment based on what we know about that kid. But
Yeah.
Chris, talk to me more about Zuko is like separated from mine this episode. What do you see that you like that I didn't
Oh man, I
observe or pick
love
up
that
on?
stuff. Like so after specifically after May and Zuko break up, uh Zuko goes on a walk by himself. One thing, the music is done so well. It's like a quiet, somber kind of note. It's not a lot going on. It's probably just like two or so instruments. Probably more that my blind ear can't hear.
Mm.
Um, but it's like just him walking on the beach, melancholy, contemplating life. Like for some reason that just hits right for me. And he goes back home. Well, he goes back to Ember Island, where he goes back to the to the vacation home that him and his family had, and like you see pictures and stuff of it, and like, and he just breaks through the door, which is some great storytelling going on because it's like it's all subtle stuff. Like he has no, he's trying to break this bond here with his past, or he just doesn't care about his past at all. Like he wants to rip it up, so he breaks through the door. Um, he sees that little hand imprint thing, puts his hand on it, all to show growth and how things have changed. Then Azula finds him there, and like and this is to me, it's like some really interesting Azula. Like this is the she has nothing to gain or anything from this. Like she's not manipulating. She's just like, I mean, maybe she is manipulating, but she's just like, oh, I thought I'll find you here. Like, come on, let's go down to the beach. Like it's one of the most sisterly things she's ever done, and it's not a loving thing. It's just more of like a indifference, which usually Azula isn't indifferent. Usually Azula is very
There's no harm
uh,
to her until if there's any reason not to, like she wouldn't, but there's no harm in her having this
yeah.
moment either, right? So it's like, yeah, it's a I'll do this thing because.
Yeah. And then when they, need to start a fire, he's like, "Oh, there's plenty of things to burn in there," and he burns the picture of his family, which included his mom, which is like, I get, hey, let me rip off half of this and burn the rest. I want to keep like, how many pictures of your mom do you have? Not a lot. Like, and like, so this is all about his identity now. He doesn't know who he is. And so even though that last moment where he's like they're all questioning like, who are you mad at? He's like, I don't know. Like, are you mad at uncle? Are you mad at me? Are you mad at dad? He's like, no, no. He's like, I'm mad at myself. Like, and like that's just like, I really think Zuko. I don't think. I think this episode was needed to set up his accepting his what his real destiny is.
It's like his little personal revelation. Um, I the scene of him in the house, or like him walking alone and then walking up to the house, busting the house. That to me feels much more how Zuko would react in this current climate. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, he'd go off on his own and he'd destroy something, and then what do we got here? Oh yeah. So, no, I hadn't really taken that part separated. Again, just another thing that like kind of angry at him for the dialogue previous. I thought you liked stuff like this and that garbage enough that then I kind of
yeah, I agree. Mhm.
lose sight of
Different
the
girl
good
likes
parts
stuff
like
like
this.
this.
Yeah, that's so ugh. Just even repeating it out loud. Okay, no, hey Chris, good job. Full marks for that because I hadn't considered that at all, and I like it. I dig it. That's good, Zuko. Um, what else? Anything? Anything?
Those are the main points. Um, the Ty Lee stuff. Oh, one thing, and more so talking about in general. I love, oftentimes, writing advice is like show don't tell. But honestly, I love it when the characters tell stuff when they are giving commentary on their own lives. It's like because these things like affect them. It also is making them a little bit more vulnerable. I mean the Ty stuff I don't really care about. The May stuff I think is really interesting, probably because I relate to it to a certain extent. Um, and then Zook like that's that moment where even though it's a dumb setup line, I don't like the setup line at all. When Ty Lee is like, "Guys, stop being so angry. Like you're gonna ruin your face." That line is dumb. I think it's dumb. But that, it's like, but I think, and they probably know that line is dumb because honestly, it feels so out of place. It's like you guys are like
Bit of a reach,
warrior.
fellas and ladies.
Well, you guys are like warriors on the front line, and you're worried about acne. Um, I think the writers probably know that line was kind of weird and forced and dumb, but it sets up a line I love of Zuko being like, no, most kids worry about acne. I don't have that luxury. My father decided to teach me a permanent lesson on my face. Like that dialogue right there, absolutely love. I mean, I don't need the part about like most kids worry about the acne part, but the part of like my father decided to teach me a permanent lesson on my face. That's and like him saying that and like admitting that that's vulnerable. And so I love that part.
I
I don't know
think
how you set that. I'm sure
uh,
someone could figure out a way to set that up better because I don't like that very cringy line from Ty Lee.
there's got to be a better way of like this the stress is gonna make me break out or is something that like just a little smoother. Uh, Chris, I think some of the issue that I have with this episode is that every one of these bits of dialogue, and I have to remind myself, as much as we love this show more than most shows, any shows, is that it is designed for a younger audience. But it does feel like every line of dialogue goes like one or two words too far. Like Zuko didn't need to say on my face, or it's like one step too heavy handed, and they all feel that's just one example, but they all feel that way of like as I can't even think of May and Tylee's in particular. It's like you didn't have to finish that sentence. I knew what the rest was going to come out of your mouth, and it feels that way in multiple spots in the last scene there with all these revelations. And that's one of those things that to
I
me
think I
just
agree with that in general.
feels
But
clunky or feels not yeah clunky feels clunky sometimes, but
yeah,
it's a show designed so that children can understand, watch it. So, all right, give a little lenience there that maybe I wouldn't want to otherwise.
I think I agree with the general sentiment we said, but I like the line of like I wouldn't cut that every bit of that seems important. Like my father, which paints who was, decided to teach me a permanent lesson. on my face. And like
So
face to me is like a branding deal. And like also that face and that scar is like so Zuko. It has it has defined his life, defined other people's perceptions of him, which we know that from
sure.
conversation with Katara and stuff. And so like I love every bit of that line, besides the the part before.
I think I would
But
have.
but I
I
agree
think I
with
would
your
have just said.
sentiment.
I would have just said. I would. There can kind of it's purely opinion. I would have said. Most kids worry about acne. I don't have that luxury, and even if it's just like the slightest turn of his head to the side with the scar, like that would have
Yeah,
told
I can see
me
it working out later.
That would have told me everything. You don't get the impact of the dad line, which again, teenagers speaking this line, teenagers talk heavy handed sometimes. That's fine. I get it. But I would have just like had him turn his head a little bit. It's like, I don't have that luxury. Like, oh yeah, acne face. Zuko's already ugly. Oops, got it. All right. I don't mean that,
It's
Zuko.
funny
Good dude.
I think that could have worked also. They do in that same scene that I was referencing before about Katara, thinking of that face as like the face of the anime, and Zuko says something like, "Oh, my face," and like there is, and he says very little lines in that thing, but we all know what he's alluding to. It could work either way.
Fair enough. Yeah. And what, Chris? Any other positives before I hit you with my biggest negative?
Let's see here. Oh, I like the new looks, the new character designs. Like, shout out to the character design people having to do complete new character designs for one episode. That's
Good looking and sounding episode through and through. Sounding music wise, not always dialogue wise, as I mentioned, but good looking episode, top to bottom.
all right. Hit me.
Chris, my biggest complaint with this whole episode is that the sole focus is a bunch of entitled rich kids being as annoying as possible. It's so hard to. It makes it like when you have a good story. What's a good? I'm trying to think of a good comp. Like, like if you wrote a good like a horror story, like a good horror movie. Here, bear with me a second. I don't know if this is going to pan out, but like a good horror movie, good narrative, but you just don't like the characters, so you don't. It doesn't bother you when they all die in the horror movie. It's like, man, it was so close to a good horror movie, but I just didn't care about any of these characters, so it didn't affect me when they all got stabbed. It's like at the end of the episode, you are kind of cheering for them to destroy somebody else's properties and to be horrible monsters. There's something about that just that bugs me that like as I'm sitting here watching this episode, I'm like this, I hate these kids. It doesn't help that I don't like May, right? And she's such a big part of the episode, and I generally don't like her as a character. Uh, and then it just makes it hard to watch, and it's ever present the whole way through. Is that this whole episode, or at least the 66%, is about entitled rich kids on vacation being humongous douchebags, and that makes it hard to watch. But Chris, I will happily say that upon rewatching, maybe not because of this, some things you added in this discussion, but just over the years of discussions with you overall, trying to watch a fresh perspective. Whatever I scored the episode in our original review, add 12%. There you go. Add 12%.
So it goes from a probably a 6.2 to a 6.8,
Was it that low? Was it that bad? I don't.
maybe.
I
I
don't
don't know.
remember. Yeah. Add a whole point to the overall score. You can. No,
Oh, point. Okay.
I think the years of
Seven
training, and
point.
then even after this, like you managing to add some fresh points, I still hadn't really considered like just that those because it's so fleeting. But it's like Zuko for 30 seconds alone. But just taking that and appreciating that for what it is and what it tells. So even after all that, you still found additional ways to add value, which I appreciate. But yeah, I'm glad we did this. I hope we repeat this idea maybe for other episodes down the road. Um, that's fun.
What are you calling this series? blank episode revisited, or
I like that. I was gonna say revisiting the beach, but I'd lead with the beach first, right? Lead with the hook.
yeah.
That sounds good. Um, what's our next biggest disparities? I wonder what our next biggest disparities. We'll look back. We'll dig up the old ratings. Probably come in season 2 of Korra. If I had to guess, we can look at some of those. Those will
Oh
be
yeah.
those will be tricky not to look at, like to
Well,
look
we
at independently though. Those will be harder to look at individually.
true, but do we disagree a lot on beginnings? I think we do.
Begin that'd be a big, good,
Yeah.
popular or like what's the like
Oh, man.
not even divisive, but popular one to look at. We could do that next. That'd be good. The storm I used to like way less, but even have come around since even before we finished up the original Avatar: Last Airbender, started to appreciate
Yeah,
that more. I wonder if my feelings have changed since watching the Netflix series, though.
I know because I like that episode that they did. Well, I like how they redid Zuko's part. Aang
Yeah,
didn't really have a story episode. I need to rewatch. I feel like I need to rewatch that show before. I don't know when the new season comes out. They're filming season 3 now. They wrapped season 2 like months ago. They started filming season 3 maybe like a month ago.
usually talking a year between filming and release,
Well,
ballpark.
yeah, well maybe like 6 months. Netflix is weird because Netflix isn't like a Netflix is like, oh well, it's done.
It
Okay.
is. It is its own separate garbage.
Yeah.
Sometimes beast. Sometimes
And
said
movie
sometimes.
studios like, all right, it's done. Let's wait. We got it on the schedule for this time. Like, they have to schedule things so far in ahead, right? Because of everything, because of theater, show times, because of marketing, because of um merchandise, stuff like that. While Netflix is just like, all right,
Here you
we
go.
just wrap.
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I forget that Netflix exists, and I wonder if there's commercials or any like where is Netflix marketed, Chris? Where do you see or learn about Netflix if you don't already have Netflix?
Every now and then you'll find a commercial. They come out. I feel like they come out with a commercial like 4 times a year to show during some bigger event to show it's on their slate. But man, besides that,
The only
it's
the only publicity they get is harsher policies and increased prices. Like that's not a great marketing strategy.
yeah.
Uh, anyway,
But hey,
Chris,
I really thought that they were going to be doomed when like every studio started
I
taking
did
their stuff
too.
off,
Yeah,
and then they have their own apps. But Netflix has like those studios are going back to Netflix, and Netflix is still creating their own stuff.
yeah,
I still don't understand fully the business model. Like it seems to be driven mostly by speculation. Because I'm like, how are they making? They spend all this money on a movie that didn't do crap. That
yeah. And that doesn't probably draw people into a subscription. Maybe a
yeah,
handful, but like a big number, oof, no, not enough to justify the budget. Yeah, I don't understand the business model either, but hey, good for them in a world where streaming services are like literally a dime a dozen, except for instead of a dime, they're all like $15 a month.
yeah,
So the opposite of a dime a dozen, but there's more than a dozen of them. Good for you, Netflix. You survived. I think most of what I watch is on Hulu or like we have the Hulu Disney combo, and that's
yeah.
probably the majority. Heather likes Crime TV, which Hulu is full of. Anyway,
Yeah.
Chris, next week we might skip because we're going to go to Animeverse, which is a con. I don't want to say a small con, but smaller than Planet Comic Con, relatively.
I'm curious how busy it's going to be. Like,
It's a decent
it's
sized
weird. I'm
convention
not.
center, but it feels more like a big. It's going to feel more like a really. Gosh, how do I describe it? Like you could fit a couple of basketball courts in it, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus.
sorry, not a couple of basketball courts. Like when you
Okay.
walk into, not like when you walk into a community center. It's like, well, we could play side to side. It's like no, like a couple of really big full courts with bleachers. Like it's gonna feel like that. but that's it, right? So you're still gonna get in there. You'll be like, oh, man, I wish I could compare. Maybe like a third of the space in the main Bartle Hall, and I bet there's some outside rooms and stuff. But
Okay.
we'll see. We'll be there
I'm
next
curious
week.
how busy it's going to be. Trying to get 3 or 4, trying to get all 3 Avatar signatures. Definitely, I'm excited to meet Jenna Varney. She
Mhm.
seems real cool. Um,
Her voice is
excited to
so
meet Jack.
easy to listen to. Like you just hear her and you're just like, oh, she sounds
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I'm enjoying listening to. They've on the Brave the Elements podcast is back. They've started Korra, which
Oh,
is really
nice.
interesting because Dante Bosco has never seen Korra. And so like it's interesting. Like every episode they have him try to like predict what's going to happen and stuff. Also, he knows like high level some things, but he's just like, what is going on? Like, what is Amon doing? Like,
Book two is gonna throw that guy for a loop. Throw that
yeah,
guy for a
oh yeah.
loop.
I'm gonna ask
That's
Janet,
cool.
how do I get on the podcast?
How do
So
I love it? Go with confidence, Chris. That's otherwise it'll
also want
never
to
work.
slightly pitch our fans
Bring the script, slap it on the desk, and be like, "How do I get on the show?"
script with edits.
Sign me up. Wait, the
She'll read it
confidence.
on the plane. She'll be like, "Oh, this is something."
This is, she'll be like, this is clearly a comic book. It's out of my ballpark, and just throw it out the plane window. Be I hate throw stuff out of plane window. She'll figure it out. No, looking forward to it though. Con in a space where parking isn't a nightmare. That should be fun. So we'll probably skip next week. We'll
Oh,
do
I
that.
did get a new. I got this plushie. Forgot about that.
It's
The big
adorable.
old Naga.
It's
So it's
adorable.
not that. Uh, that looked way bigger than it was, and then see
It
how big.
forced perspective, just like Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. Just like Lord of the Rings. Wait, go back and watch the Lord of the Rings sometimes, and especially that first movie. Watch how much they use sort of practical forced perspective instead of effects. And it's like it doesn't. It's not that it looks good. It definitely doesn't look horrible, but it's not that it looks good. But you're just like, oh, I'm kind of impressed with like how many times they went out of their way to do it practically with like Gandalf standing next to a hobbit. It's kind of fun to pick all those scenes out.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm not rewatching that.
I love those. You back off. I
One
love those movies.
one of these days, I will. I might have to be retired or just like a bunch of vacation. I'm not sure,
Listen
but
here,
one day,
Zack Snyder's Justice League. Don't come at me with your time.
one thing that, in my defense, I've watched that twice, and that's
Okay,
it
that's fair.
since it came. I like. I wish there was a hour. I wish there was a version of that movie that was three
Zack
hours.
Snyder's director's cut, trimmed down cut.
Yes, I
The
need someone
movie.
to go and trim that movie down because it's too long. Like,
Please.
I love the movie.
I made
Maybe I
Gio.
do. I
I
don't.
made
I've seen
Gio
it
watch
twice.
the director's cuts of Lord of the Rings, and so the first one he was polite. I was like, "What'd you think?" He was like, "It was long." I was like, "Yeah, I know." It's this by the third one. He's like calling out scenes. He's like, "So now we're just watching him float down a river." I'm like, "I'm proud of you, kid. I'm proud of you." Yes, we are. No, shh. This is important. It's a very important river.
Thing is,
I missed you.
I'm in such a different. Like, I haven't watched those movies since maybe high school or college, and so I have changed so much in my film ingestion and critique, and so maybe I will like it more now. Maybe
I
I'll respect it, enjoy it more, but it seems like such a tall task.
I feel like you will appreciate the filmography, the audio visuals of everything more. I feel like you will be more prone to seeing a couple of the fairly obvious plot holes or plot maybe egregious plot conveniences and saying ugh. But I bet that from a film standpoint and putting yourself in, early 2000s shoes, and I think you'll be like, That's impressive. And
So
then,
since we had that conversation about that plot convenience, I keep thinking of plot conveniences that set up plots, and then because I said before that that's perfectly fine, and it still is, but I just think of more and more of them,
okay,
like even Mako running into Asami. Like,
but
what are the chances of Asami almost running over Mako on a motorcycle?
but we have to add like an additional criteria of that of it has to feel in place that this convenience is setting up. Like what makes it become a plot convenience that we say with like a negative light is when it's like they did the whole episode and they could have like, oh crap, how did we make this part work? It's like, well, what if we did that back there? And it feels that way, and you're like,
Uh,
that's it's still setting it up, but it clearly was an oversight or a last minute thing. It's like I'm struggling to think of a good example right now. Mako and Asami running into each other. That's to me, it's just the good kind of coincidence. Like it works. I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
yeah.
I'll try to think of a good example where it feels stuffed in after the fact.
I mean, that happens all the time.
But
Like,
earlier on,
yeah, like I watched a bunch of like writing videos. Of like, if you have a plot, or if you have some type of like Deus Ex Machina, just go back and set it up.
yeah,
Like,
and there's probably good and bad ways to do that. So I'll try to think of some bad ones. It's a fun thing. I pay more attention to that stuff now than I used to, for sure. But um, that's enough for us, I think.
yeah,
My name's Shawn. That's I say it because the timer's coming up, and I'm too
I
lazy to
know.
like. I don't want to restart another one.
No, that's
My name's Shawn. That's Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek. We're Avatar: The Last Podcasters. Tell us if you liked revisiting an episode. I kind of had a lot of fun with it. I did have a lot of fun with it. And leave
and
your
suggest any other episodes.
yeah, hit us with like divisive ones, or especially if you've been listening for a long time, you're like, this is stupid thing that Shawn said about this episode. Tell us those episodes.
We're gonna revisit season 2, Gazan driving a truck, and why it makes the most sense in the world.
That's season 3, and it never will. Leave your
Season
positive
3.
likes, reviews, comments, click bells to get notifications, all that, whatever. Do that stuff. We love it. We appreciate it all. Mostly, we appreciate you being here right now. We'll see you next time.